I would say that there's a lot more data out there, which could be good or could be bad, right? It just means there's more to go through and understand how to filter and where to look.
I'm sure you're going to cut through things, but I still think that when somebody has had money stolen from them, that they tend to care and hire an investigator. So from my standpoint, I'm as much interested in having a conversation with you about asset searching here in the United States. I mean, it's an area that we've collaborated on. Why don't we talk about that for a little bit? You and I are working on a pretty interesting set of frauds right now. Actually, they're frauds that I'm investigating. I do a lot of investigation of real estate frauds here in the United States. It's one of the strange things that people ask me to do as a certified fraud examiner, is to look at where the money went when they're investing in real estate. But you and I have worked on many different types of frauds, and you're expert at chasing down who's behind companies in the United States. Is it getting easier? Is the sort of Google, whoever you know, something that's made it simple for anybody to do, or are you still finding it difficult?
I mean, I would say that there's a lot more data out there, which could be good or could be bad, right? It just means there's more to go through and understand how to filter and where to look. But I think that also, it's just like anything, right? Understanding how people are using the system to hide and duck, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of people that try to use the internet and database tools, right? But it comes down to other things and what to look for and where, right? Who to talk to, how are these people associated, things like that at least give you the story of, what the possibilities are. Anyone can go into Google and put in search and pull up relevant information, but that's a fraction of the overall data that's available, and knowing where to look, right? I mean, you have to know where to look, how to look, when to look, and in scenarios that would, suggest that. So why are properties owned by different entities? Who are behind those entities? All those different types of things that people need to think about, that most of the time people that are going to own real estate in the US are not owning it in their own name. They're creating entities to filter themselves. So that's one example, but there are very many others where people use family members and other things to kind of hide that.
Well, let's take a pause and then let's hone in on that. Tim, we've worked a lot of fraud cases together where we're looking at shell companies here in the United States, and it's been so fantastic to work with you and to see how you get behind shell companies. It's not easy to do. You seem to be able to do it very well.
Again, it comes down to knowing where to look, right? You know where to look and how to look, and where the information is available, where it's not, right? Because really the secret is public records and how they're indexed county by county, state by state, and they're really publicly available and how to get to those. Knowing what jurisdictions you're in and how to ask for those information, the records that you should have access to, and how to use those commercial databases to get you to where you need to go. But really it just comes down to knowing the system of record and how to navigate it so you can kind of get your arms around that and fill in the blanks, right? When you know something's missing.
It's incredibly difficult if you try to log into some of these databases and you don't know what you're looking for or how to look for it. You have a team that's been able to do it extremely well. For me, internationally, it's very much the same thing. It gets very complicated. We do a lot of records checks looking behind shell companies overseas. It's an area that we both work on together. I think that we both are asked to do this because it seems to me like the use of shell companies is still happening. The Panama Papers happened years ago, but people are still using these shell companies to move money around. And one of the things that I've always been surprised by is that people don't do enough to investigate where they're writing their checks to. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? People are very apt to investigate after the fraud, after the counterfeit, after the embezzlement, and try and work it backwards. But they just don't do the basics to verify that the people are who they say they are, that where they send in the check is where those people really are, and just vetting who they are. And we even see it, people in the U.S. trusting people outside of the U.S. without even, more so than they would inside the U.S. And so why not just make sure that they are who they say are there, and they are where they are, right? Are they really manufactured? Are they really in that area? These supply chains that are in, that we rely upon, our companies rely upon, the lifeblood of the business. So why are you trusting them to do the right thing? not just in their business and how they handle things, but financially, they have the ability to financially withstand and do what they need to do. And people don't pay attention to that. And they're so very surprised when things go awry, and they're like, well, I thought there was something weird about that, or they wanted to do this way, or they wanted it wired here, or whatever. And they're just not aware of, things that can go wrong. They want to move quick, which is important, but doing that diligently is still super important.
One of the things that I like to do is just help people. I'm in this job to help people, and you're very much the same. I've enjoyed working with you all these years. Thank you so much for working with me.
No problem.